under those conditions, I still have priorities. If we work our way out of it, we could have priorities and try to take care of those who have been taught to be so dependent. You don't need to start on food stamps. I think you should start on all the foreign spending. Absolute necessity to go about the world spreading our goodness, and they call it spreading our exceptionalism. And this has been going on since Woodrow Wilson. Make the world safe for democracy. Some people have named this neo-Jacobinism. This idea that we can force people to be good. Well, I'll tell you what, we have been an exceptional nation. We at one time understood property rights and monetary policy and contract rights, limited government, and yet today we have lost that. But if you are an exceptional nation, if we are to be an exceptional nation, people will want to emulate us. They'll want to copy us. You can't go overseas and tell them, do this or if you do it, we'll give you money. If you don't do it, we'll bomb you. That's not the way to change the world. Against legalizing freedom of choice in society. When people hurt each other and damage each other, obviously that's the purpose of government, to take care of those problems. But when people spend their money in a way that you don't approve or have a lifestyle that you don't approve of, and you say the government has to come in and change it, then all of a sudden, what we do is we just get into more and more trouble. And people will say, well, I can't allow people to spend their money. They might not do it wisely. I can't allow them to do this. They might become a gambler. It'll be all my fault because I allowed them to do this. But by legalizing something and legalizing freedom of choice, you don't endorse it. Because people use their religion in a way you don't want to. You don't endorse their religion. Is thinking about striving for excellence and virtue and dealing with spiritual life. And that should be in the business of government. And under those conditions, though, government should just stay out of it. If we can accept that for our spiritual life and our intellectual life, why is it that we automatically say we need the FDA to tell us everything we ever do about putting what we put in I've talked for a long time about the war on drugs. I think the war on drugs has been a total failure. I think drugs are horrible. I think they're a mess, but I also know that drug addiction of prescription drugs is a lot worse than illegal drugs. Throw people in prison that didn't commit a violent crime. Our country tried prohibition back when they passed the 18th Amendment, and just think of the difference in that period of time. They actually amended the Constitution to change this and give the power to the government. Today, the government just never think about it. But that was a total failure, so people woke up and said we had to repeal the prohibition. And today, though, I think we're making great progress. When you see Pat Robertson coming out and saying, hey, let's look at this more carefully. And he, like I, was very reserved about saying drugs are dangerous, but there's a lot of danger. Who's responsible for protecting you against yourself? When the government thinks they can do that, they'll regulate every single thing you do. They'll tell you how much salt you can put on your food. But not only doesn't it work, it costs a lot of money, but it's also one of the excuses for the violation of our civil liberties. And guess what? Guess who some of the organized efforts are against the changing the drug laws? Alcohol companies, they don't want people using something in place of alcohol. Also the drug companies. What if you started using something that you can grow in your backyard? You didn't buy all those expensive drugs. The issue for me is liberty, and who makes the decision? Because one thing leads to another. Today, if you decided you want to drink raw milk, you might be prohibited by the federal government. Not just because there's such a poor understanding on the war on drugs. There was a product, a commercial product that we had for years. The founders grew it in their backyards and in their fields. And we used it during World War II. But because of the war on drugs, they prohibit this country from growing hemp. One of their excuses is that, well, it looks like marijuana.